It all started so suddenly. One morning, Peter woke up in an unbelievably good mood. Not just cheerful, unnaturally cheerful. He smiled wider than usual, spoke in a soft, polite tone, cleaned the breakfast dishes without being asked, and complimented everyone for the smallest things. Even Lois admitted she liked this new Peter. He asked Chris about his day. He helped Meg pack for school and told her she deserved to feel appreciated. He picked Stewie up and hugged him, gently, evenly, a little too long. The family adored him. No one questioned it. Only Brian watched him carefully, though he didn't say anything. Day by day, Peter became increasingly perfect. He anticipated everyone's needs before they spoke. He timed breakfast perfectly, cleaned the house top to bottom, never raised his voice, never argued, never complained. But the strangest part was that his smile never left his face. Even when he thought no one was looking, his expression remained fixed, stretched, smooth, almost glued in place. One night, Lois woke up and saw Peter standing in the hallway with his back toward her. Completely still, completely silent. When she asked what he was doing, he turned his head far too slowly and said, "Just watching over the family, making sure everyone is safe." By the third day, the house itself began to react to him. Lights flickered whenever he walked past. The TV turned on the moment he sat in his recliner. Sometimes his shadow stretched strangely across the wall, taller, sharper. But whenever Lois blinked, it snapped back to normal. The kids didn't notice any of it. They said, "Dad's just better now." But Lois couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was too good, too controlled. One afternoon, she went down to the basement to find an old box, despite Peter telling her more than once, "Please don't go down there yet. I'm fixing something." The basement door was cracked open. She stepped inside. The single bulb hummed weakly overhead, and in the far corner, slumped against the wall, was Peter, the real Peter. Dirty, exhausted, wrists tied, shirt torn. He lifted his head slowly and whispered, "Lois, that thing upstairs isn't me. Please don't trust him." Lois stumbled toward him, trembling, when she heard footsteps above her, slow, steady, confident. The basement lights sputtered. Then the false Peter appeared at the top of the stairs. The perfect one, the smiling one. His expression didn't change at all. His eyes reflected the basement bulb like polished glass. "Lois," he said softly, "there's no need to worry. I'm the better version." She shielded the real Peter with her body. She tried to ask who, or what, he was, but nothing came out. The false Peter took one step down, then another. His smile stretched slightly wider, past the point where a normal face should move. "You both stay here," he said calmly. "The family needs someone who does everything right." The door slammed shut. The lock clicked from the outside. Lois pounded on it, screaming, but the house did not respond. The lights flickered, then went out. The final shot of the episode was the living room. The kids sat quietly beside the new Peter. He gently patted Meg's head, straightened Chris's collar, and held Stewie on his knee. They smiled. They leaned into him. They accepted him. Nobody asked why their father no longer blinked. Nobody noticed that he never once stopped smiling. The episode cut to black. It all started when Peter came home one afternoon, carrying a huge cardboard box, and proudly announced that he'd found the perfect new dog to keep Brian company. Brian was suspicious right away. Nobody had asked for a second dog, and Peter looked way too excited about it. When the box opened, a big dark dog stepped out. It didn't bark, didn't wag its tail, didn't act nervous or playful. It just stared at everyone with this strange, overly aware expression, like it already understood the entire house and everyone in it. Lois tried to pet it, but the dog pulled back slightly and let out a quiet rumble, not aggressive, more like a warning. The kids said something felt off, but Peter just laughed and said the dog was shy. That first night, Brian realized something was wrong. The new dog walked around the house almost silently, but its steps were too controlled, too evenly spaced, as if it was counting them. Sometimes it stood outside bedroom doors for minutes at a time without moving. And in the dark, Brian could have sworn its eyes glimmered, even though there was no light nearby. By the third day, the family started complaining about strange scratching sounds at night, but no one could tell where they came from. Peter brushed it off, insisting the new dog was adjusting, though Brian knew that wasn't true. The dog barely ate, yet somehow got bigger every day. Its breathing at night was heavy and deep, echoing through the hallway like it was sitting right behind the walls. One evening, Chris said he saw the new dog standing in the corner of the living room, staring at the blank television screen as if it were watching something only it could see. On the fourth day, things got worse. Family members began disappearing one by one. First, Meg. Peter claimed she'd gone to hang out with friends, but her phone was still on the kitchen counter. Then Chris vanished. Then Lois. The house became unnervingly silent. Brian searched every room, but there were no signs of where anyone had gone. The new dog, already enormous now, spent most of its time sitting by the basement door, guarding it like something was down there. By evening, even Peter was gone. No note, no explanation, just silence. Brian realized he was alone in a house that felt less and less like home, with only that strange dog left, watching him more openly now. He gathered his courage and walked toward the living room, determined to figure out what was happening. But as he reached the stairs, the lights suddenly went out. Heavy breathing echoed through the darkness, closer than ever. The lamps flickered once, and Brian saw it. The new dog standing in the center of the room. It was far bigger than before, impossibly big, and slowly lifted its head to look directly at him with a stare that froze him in place. Brian tried to step back, and right at that moment, the episode cut to black. It started quietly. Joe Swanson stopped showing up at the Drunken Clam. He didn't answer calls. Even Quagmire said he hadn't seen him in days. Peter joked that Joe probably got stuck to his chair again, but deep down he felt a strange, heavy unease. On the third day of Joe's disappearance, someone knocked on the Griffin door. Peter opened it and froze. Joe was standing there, standing on his legs, upright, balanced, as if he had always been able to walk. "Hey, Peter," Joe said softly, almost emotionlessly. Peter stepped back. "Joe, how are you? How are you standing?" Joe tilted his head slightly, like the question confused him. "I've always walked, Peter." His smile was tight, unnatural, stretched just a little too far. Peter told him to leave, but Joe calmly stepped inside the house, walking as smoothly as if gravity didn't affect him the same way it affected everyone else. He talked normally, but every line sounded rehearsed, like someone else was feeding him sentences. By nightfall, Peter was gone. The house was unnervingly silent, and in Peter's favorite armchair sat Joe, holding the TV remote as if he had been doing it for years. Lois acted like nothing was wrong. The kids didn't question it. When they said, "Dad," they were looking at Joe. Only Brian reacted, the only one who remembered Peter existed. The next day, Brian confronted him. "Where's Peter?" he demanded. Joe stared at him for an uncomfortably long time without blinking. "Peter's here," he finally said. "I'm Peter." His tone was so calm, so confident, it made Brian's stomach twist. That night, Brian heard footsteps. Not Peter's, not Joe's. Something heavier, slower, echoing in multiple parts of the house at once. He rushed to the living room. Joe was still there, sitting upright, watching the static-filled TV. But his shadow on the wall was wrong. Too tall, too stretched, too alive. On the fourth day, Brian went to the basement. He followed faint drag marks carved into the wooden floor. The air down there felt colder than it should, thick like fog you couldn't see but could feel in your lungs. In the far corner, Brian found a torn piece of a green shirt, Peter's shirt. And then he heard a weak groan, unmistakably Peter's. Brian stepped forward, but before he could follow the sound, the basement door slammed upstairs. "Peter!" he called, but the voice that answered was not Peter's. Joe was standing in the doorway, still, too still, taller than before. Or maybe the ceiling had somehow lowered. His face didn't move, but he was smiling. "You've learned too much, Brian," he said, voice almost echoing. Brian tried to run, but Joe's steps were unnaturally steady, too smooth for a man who used to rely on a wheelchair his entire life. When Joe grabbed him, Brian felt an icy, metallic grip, like the hands weren't made of flesh anymore. "I'm Peter," Joe whispered, "and I'm staying." The final shot of the episode was the Griffin living room. Lois cooked dinner as if nothing had changed. Meg and Chris watched TV, and sitting in Peter's armchair was Joe, perfectly still, perfectly composed, wearing Peter's calm expression like a mask. No sign of Brian anywhere, just his collar lying in the shadow near the couch. The episode cut to black without sound.